morning. Welcome. Calling this meeting to order and moving on to the agenda. I believe we have an amendment.
Yeah, I would like to request an amendment to have a presentation from our audit company and put that right under agenda item 6. So after the approval of the finances from December.
Is there
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
second? Motion from Sammy, second from Bruce. Any discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. So was that the approval of the agenda, or we have to still approve?
But
the
you
agenda?
did, now they're asking a motion of the approved amended agenda.
I am aware.
Sorry, Sammy.
I would ask for a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make that motion.
Thanks, Sammy.
I'll second.
Second from Bill. Thank you. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Moving on to public comment. Thanks for being here. Thank you. All right. Another opportunity at the end of the meeting. Approval of the minutes from our regular meeting from December 11th.
A motion to approve the minutes from the regular meeting.
Motion from Mr. Crowley.
Second.
Second from Sammy. Any discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Approval of minutes from the special meeting.
Motion to approve.
Motion from Bruce.
I'll second.
Second from Lindsay. Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thanks again. Approval of financials from December. Who's presenting financials?
Do you want to do Andrew or?
Oh, yeah, I have it right here. So, sorry, I was ill prepared for presenting full financials. Everything kind of went as normal outside of having to transfer that revolving loan fund this month. So that's officially transferred over, correct, Nicole? Yeah, and so that's going to be, as an account, like, closed down. So,
Less than $2.
yeah, yeah, so,
Okay.
but outside of that, everything's more or less on point where it needs to be. Excellent, so.
Any questions?
Can I ask a dumb question?
Yeah.
Are the downtown dollars the same as Manistee County cash?
No.
So that was a transfer over program. They became Manistee County Cash. There is still some downtown dollars out there, so we have been exchanging them if people bring them in. And that downtown dollars expires December 2025. So after this year, that program will be officially done.
So then that won't go into the DDA budget then, or, okay,
That'll get removed.
okay.
Good dumb question.
Well, how do you reconcile businesses that aren't downtown with this program? Like Chapo's or whoever else
With the
participates in
downtown
it?
dollars,
Mhm.
they can't accept them.
Okay,
Originally, there was a list of businesses that accepted them.
okay.
And that's really kind of, it's not gone away, but there's a few circulating, so legally we still have to redeem them, but.
Yeah, they're treated like gift cards legally.
Okay.
But you have a good question. I have a dumb question. So I'm looking at the statement of activity, and it's the C accountant's complication report, violation, excuse me. Under expenses, I see advertising. And then a little bit below that, I see office-related expenses, advertising. What is that?
Nicole, do you want to kind of explain what exactly that, all of that, because I know we use that advertising budget line for several things that might not.
I see advertising up here, and then I see office-related advertising. I was just curious what that meant. Yes, you can.
And they are different account numbers.
Yep. One. Then we got advertising up here somewhere.
That one, I believe, is created as, when we did the social district, like informational flyers for businesses, that's kind of a behind the scenes thing. We had to make those like laminated and stuff. That kind of went into that category because it's not technically public advertisement, it's just for the businesses.
Okay.
So that is what that expense line is.
Perfect, thank you. Agree with that.
Thanks, Ben. Any other questions? I would entertain a motion for approval.
I'll make the motion.
Thanks, Amy.
I'll second.
Second for Lindsay. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item B,
Just left over.
audit report.
Yep. Cindy, thanks for coming on today.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah, good to
I'm gonna get to
All right, am I free to jump into it?
Yep, go for it.
All right, everybody can hear me okay?
Loud and clear.
Great. I'm Kent Osma. I'm the partner in charge of working on the DDA audit, the city's audit. I also have Cindy Eicher with me, who is the senior auditor who did most of the work for the audit for 2024. Just a little background. So the DDA is required to have a financial audit every year and report to the state of Michigan. With that financial audit, we do a lot of evidence gathering and reviewing to make sure that there's enough information to support the financial information and its accuracy. And we'll look at a lot of documentation like invoices and information that comes with money that's receipted, your payroll systems, contracts, different agreements, grant agreements if applicable. We'll test the tax capture money and its calculation and how much it's has come in and if there's any receivable. We'll confirm every bank account you have with the different banks directly with them and backed to know that what you have for cash is accurate. So at the end of all this evidence gathering, we'll also do different analytical reviews of like how things stacked up from last year to this year, how they stack up to the budget, and find explanations and reasons for things changing and if they meet our expectations or why not. So at the end of all this, we'll give our opinion on the financial statements and their accuracy. And we do that on the first page on the second paragraph under opinions. It basically says that the financial statements present fairly in all material respects the respective financial position, which is the balance sheet, then the changes in position, which is like your income statement, in accordance with the U.S. government accounting principles. And also, it's also done in accordance with government auditing standards, which is a stricter set of standards requiring auditors' objectivity and independence, as well as compliance with the different state and federal laws and things of done like the state has various procurement requirements and policies, uses of investing money and all these things. Some of these things you're under the umbrella of the city itself and their policies, and some you can have more separated just specifically for the DDA. But we give either four types of opinions. There's the adverse, which means there are issues that couldn't be rectified or differences couldn't be explained. So that's probably the bad opinion. Then there's a disclaimer when there isn't information, which usually doesn't happen too much unless something's lost and records were lost in a fire or something like that. Then there is a modified, which usually means most things are correct, but maybe one area is weak, like maybe the accounting for the notes receivable or something isn't correct, but everything else is okay. And then last is the unmodified, which means everything was that checked out fine for the audit, or they call it the clean opinion. And that's what you guys received for 2024 is the unmodified or clean opinion. The other things we usually look at our audit is kind of looking at like the health of like your cash balances, fund balance. I think you ended the year on page 11 with 682,000 in cash. You also have other assets like the taxes receivable, prepaid items, which are things that get paid ahead to a future period. Payables to vendors of 20,000. And your fund balance landed at 699,000. Up, I think, on page 12, it shows you went up about 83,147 for the year. And usually fund balance, we recommend making sure that you kind of have a healthy fund balance to make sure that you have reserves to operate into the future. There's no maximum or a measure of too much, and there's usually a floor of like 10 to 15%, which you're above that of next year's expenditures to make sure you don't go into a dangerous place. But your fund balance is, definitely in a safe place, and it's also good kind of to have in case you need grants, because a lot of times there's usually a match or there's grants that are often on what they call the reimbursement basis, meaning you got to pay for the stuff first and then wait from the state or federal government to get reimbursed. So it kind of allows you to cash flow with different projects and do those things and keep things moving. So it's good that that's healthy. Otherwise, some of the big things we look at too are with revenues. Your tax capture obviously is an important thing to make sure that that's kind of staying at a healthy level, and it seems to be the last few years. Everybody remembers back in 2008 with the financial decline, because capture is calculated on kind of like the excess that was measured when the DDA when the zone was created. Always making sure that there always is that excess and it's kind of growing at a healthy level is important. 2008, things kind of went, and a few of the years after, things kind of got tighter with property values going down. So it would make it harder for DDAs during those lean times. So at least we're, kind of in periods of better health currently. I think otherwise, a lot of the things you're doing in different projects and events that you guys have been hosting, everything looks kind of similar to what you've been doing in the past, and everything seems to be documented well and spent well. The other statement we look at, or kind of what the state cares about, is the budget results, and that's on page 21, the report. And the way it's laid out, we have like your very original budget when you approve to start the year. Then there's the final, which is representative or to include any of the amendments that happen during the year. Because of course, the budget law requires, as you know, of changes coming about in the year, it's appropriate to make the amendments to adjust to those changes as they occur. And then that gets compared to the final results. And then it shows the variances. And you've had some, as you've seen in taxes and some grant revenues. Looks like you got some more that you didn't expect. Overall, the looks like revenues turned out quite better than what was anticipated. So that's good. That usually with they say the rule of thumb is with revenues to kind of be more conservative. If it turns out better, that's always the goal. Expenditures, you stayed under. You were budgeted for 560,000, came in at 382, so you stayed in well below where you anticipated. So that's what they call good budgeting or financial management. Staying within your means is good. And then again, overall, your fund balance went up 83,000 for the year. And sometimes with the budget, you can have maybe delays of projects or different things, but overall, you're kind of being able to adjust the budget to reflect changes and things. So it looks like that's being done well. I think otherwise we didn't have anything else too eventful to report for 2024. Did you have any questions or concerns?
Questions for Kent or Cindy? I think it looks good, Kent. Thanks for the
Yeah,
work.
I think you guys had a really good audit for 2024.
Excellent.
And good financial health.
Yeah, thank you very much for doing that. Thanks for coming on.
No problem.
Have a good day.
All right, you guys too. Thank you again.
Yep.
Bye.
Okay. Moving on to item 7, executive report. Andrew.
All right, so December was a little bit of a light month. I took 2 weeks off there at the end, so I was out starting pretty much December 20th. And we also had the sleigh bell right at the beginning, so that kept everybody very, very busy. Sounded like a good year for sleigh bell, though. I think Sammy is going to have Do you already kind of have like a rough idea of numbers as to like, was it better or worse than the years prior, do you
I
know?
think it was probably flat from where it was
Oh,
last
okay,
year.
okay, gotcha. Because that's what I kind of heard, like a mixed bag of reviews from business owners, but overall sounded like a hit. So for December though, we now have all the 2024, 2025 grant contracts in for the 4 awarded facade grants that we gave this year. So all of those contracts are in, so now those business owners can move forward. They have 90 days to start construction. Obviously, we're pretty flexible with that, just given some work, you really gotta wait until May, you know, when it gets warmer out. Outside of that, we've been in discussion with the Music Vault property. We would like to see window wraps. We got a quote for window wraps. It's just a matter of continuing to communicate with that property owner to actually get permission. It kind of sounds like a little bit of a state of limbo right now and some uncertainty around whether we're allowed to do that. But we did get quotes and Sammy kind of gave us some design ideas for what that may look like. So it's just a matter of hopefully getting that property owner's permission, getting the window wraps there to make it look cleaner, not as much of an eyesore in the heart of the downtown, more or less. Love Wines, they did get their local unit of government approval on December 17th at City Council. So that's excellent. Everything's moving forward there, as well as the business that's coming in at 401 River Street. So both of those are on track and are more or less locked in for those properties now. 401 is a higher end women's boutique in home good, like home furnishing. So like imagine like a well nested paired with a piping plover. I like to think they're an existing business from a surrounding community down south. So they've been in operation for a bunch of years, very successful business. Will definitely be a good thing for downtown, I think, with the Hampton Inn coming in. And kind of bringing a different, like more affluence, I guess. I think that store is probably going to do fairly well in downtown. So it's good to see both of those storefronts get filled, especially for that stretch of River Street. Obviously, you know, just down on the western end. But we also had 340 River Street and 380 River Street come up on the market. So just kind of keep an eye on that. The 380 River Street's where Annie's bookstore is with Marianne's Antiques. The sale of that property isn't likely to change, though the businesses that occupy that space. But definitely keep an eye out for the 340 River Street. That's City to Shore, where they're at right now.
That sold, didn't it?
Which one is that?
The 340?
I believe it's contingent
Okay.
right now, so. Yeah, it's kind of in the works, but just keep an eye out for that. And then for the Northern Hotel, unfortunately, we were expecting that the RFP for stabilization work was going to be opened and approved, the bids for it were going to be opened and approved in the December meeting on the 16th. However, the state land bank made the Manistee County Land Bank reissue the RFP because there were some concerns about federal labor laws getting met and kind of some nitpicking items. So they had to go back, reissue it, and now they're looking to make sure that that gets out and bids open at the January meeting. That's really pressing because there's MEDC dollars in that, and there's a timeline for which they have to kind of allocate those MEDC dollars. So it's really vital that that stabilization work gets going from the land bank so that MEDC dollars aren't jeopardized on that property. So we're constantly kind of communicating with that particular developer and just making sure that like hey, timeline's still good, right? Because it is getting tighter and tighter the longer that work has to start. And they were pretty confident that they were going to be able to hit the ground running right in the beginning of January, but now that they had to reissue it, bid it back out, definitely added some unnecessary delay, unfortunately. But that's all from an executive report standpoint.
Okay, thank you, Andrew.
Yep.
Does that also cover the facade grant report?
Yeah,
Which is
yeah,
next? Okay.
yeah, because that's the facade grant's now gonna be kind of a waiting game because we're waiting on the MEDC grants from last year to finish up their work. You can expect kind of in the springtime to see a lot of activity the MEDC grant, and then also probably for this year's
Okay,
grant round. There'll be a lot more activity once the spring comes.
okay, thank you. Item B, under subcommittee reports, streetscape.
So streetscape has been busy. I know that Sammy, Bruce, Kyle, Phil, you guys have obviously been in the loop. Deanna, Lindsay, Tyler, Ben. This is kind of an update, and a lot's kind of happened over December. We've been working with Rayside Design, Brandon Jensen, to really conceptualize what we want to see the streetscape to look like and what's feasible. Recently, an MEDC RAP grant came out, and that supports public infrastructure. It supports up to $1 million in infrastructure improvement. So Bill was working really hard to see, is there a way we can pair that RAP grant to help support the streetscape project. We had kind of a shotgun meeting on Monday last second because a lot of people were out to really, how do we get this ball rolling, because that grant application's due January 31st. So it's kind of a quick turnaround. So Spicer released this engineering project report in which they need to get this engineering design finished for a stretch of streetscape. They have to get it to almost 90% completion in order to be competitive for the grant round. And that would cost $72,000. The city's already put up $10,000 for survey work. So we would be left with $62,000 to cover for engineering drawings. In our meeting on Monday with Spicer, we got a little off track. This is a section that they're talking about needing engineering drawings. So all the way from Water Street to Oak Street, this would be kind of a first phase. And this may be the first time you guys are kind of seeing this rendering here. But as you can see, there's 6 bump outs along River Street here. So right where the West Shore entrance is on Oak, that has 4 bump outs, and then you go farther down to Pine, and there's another 4. So there's 6, but the 2 in the middle here aren't going to be engineered for. But this plaza design is what the city applied for the shared streets, the MDOT grant back in the summer. And what needs to happen again is this needs to be officially kind of like engineered out for drawings. Now we get to a point of 90%. Again, we got discussing about the Marina Park. However, that $60,000 is not covering any engineering cost for the park, because that was not discussed until Monday. So that original $62,000 that we would have to pay is just for streetscape engineering costs that we need regardless of if we apply for the grant. Applying to the grant increases the price by $5,000 for Spicer to actually do the work for applying for the grant and getting everything ready. But more or less, we would have to pay $55,000, $60,000 for surveys, engineering drawings to get to a point where we can turn around and give it to a construction company. Obviously, having that 10% left, we would still have to do a little bit of work if we didn't get the grant to get it to a point where you can actually hand it off and stake it out for a construction company. So this is kind of the first phase design for the portion of streetscape that we're thinking that we'd be able to not bond out for, but actually be able to pay for through our general fund and what we budgeted for streetscape.
So we would be applying for the maximum, which is $1 million.
Yeah.
And that drawing or the application would be for the two blocks, correct?
Yeah, so the application would cover all the way to the Oak Street where it has the 4 bump outs. And if we were to go along with this, I would also ask that we would do a letter of support for the grant as well. But again, that is up to the board. I know this is kind of the first time you guys are seeing these renderings of that portion of the River Street. So it's kind of been a quick turnaround with that grant. Again, Bill's kind of been working really hard to just make it happen relatively quick. Bill, do you have anything to add?
Yep, thanks, Andrew. I think that's a good overview. So back in, I think, October, November, Andrew and I talked about this opportunity with the RAP grant to fund some portion of the streetscape project. We already did some preliminary work, as we stated, about that shared streets and spaces. So this seemed like if we could make it work, it would be kind of the next logical phase to get a first portion done of the streetscape. So it happened, I think it was around Christmas time, sat down and Lucas said, well, yeah, we can get it up to that design. We have to move quickly. So it was getting the survey in place so that this board had an opportunity to move on the other portion. So yeah, I think that the city went forward with the survey portion of it because that had to be done first. And we wouldn't even be in this position to go for it if that wasn't approved. And then the next step is this other engineering cost.
So the survey work was the 11,000, right?
12,000, yep.
And so sorry, go ahead.
No. So I was
The
just
city-
clarifying that it was, the city's covered well, so we would have to front 60,000. And I know there was concern, and I had concern as well, about the deliverable of this cost, where if we were to pay for this and we don't get the grant, is it just a sunken cost with a pie-in-the-sky project, with, being in the city park, that's kind of outside of our scope and intention right now with the streetscape. But in talking with Spicer yesterday, it is covering a deliverable engineering drawings from sidewalk to sidewalk, from oak down to water, that needs to be done regardless of the grant. So we would still be left with feasible construction or engineering drawings of this work that needs to be done on this 2-block stretch of River Street. So if we don't get the grant, we're still left with a product that, okay, hey, now we can just push it across that 10%, finish it up, get the other 10% finished, and then start construction on that portion, if that's what the board feels comfortable doing.
And that was one of my concerns. Are we risking 60,000 for almost nothing? Because the grant is, it's competitive and it'd be likely we don't get it. But I think it's worth trying for not most of the work's been done, but we're well down the road. And Spicer's willing to push it through for us. So I had those concerns, but after several discussions yesterday and the meeting on Monday, I feel better about it now that we're at least getting an asset out of this. It's not a sunken cost. And the grant covers the engineering drawings.
I will say this is just, oh, you're asking for the grant?
Does the grant cover the expense of the?
Lucas did mention that.
I thought he did.
It does cover the engineering expense of the project.
If awarded.
Yeah, if awarded. The reason it's so competitive is the state has a bucket of $10 million. It's across the entire state. Normally they kind of put it into regions and say, oh, this region gets 4 million, this region gets 2 million, but this grant is 10 million across the entire state for infrastructure projects. So that's why it's really competitive, because you're dealing with municipalities across the entire state of Michigan and can expect to see 30, 40 plus applications. There's not significantly more that are all going to ask most likely for the maximum amount of $1 million.
We could get somewhere between.
Minimum's 500,000 or $1 million.
Okay.
So it's, and it's a 50% match. So either it's a $1 million project or a $2 million project.
That's a good point. That's another thing to keep in mind is this is a 50%. So if we get $1 million, we got to come up with $1 million. Any questions? Do you have anything to add, Bruce or Sammy? You were in on these meetings as well.
Is it, I'm not familiar with RFPs for building things. I'm more familiar with services. Typically, the cost of preparing the proposal is never a reimbursable expense. I don't know, this is the first time I've encountered shovel-ready. So is it typical when you require a shovel-ready project that the costs of producing the engineering to support that are reimbursable under the procurement?
Reimbursable by whom was,
So the grant would pay you for producing the shovel-ready materials?
so it looks like they were saying you can get up to 60% design or 90% design. You get points based on that. So it's however they define shovel ready. And you're right, there's still construction documents, there's still
I don't, we can look into that within the grant, like guidelines, I'm not that, well, I haven't interacted enough with state grants to know for certain if, when they're requiring shovel ready, if that's always the case where it's reimbursable for construction or engineering cost. We can look into that and get back to you. I don't think there's, I don't have enough data and lived experience to know that it's always the case. But I do think that they wouldn't reimburse for the grant application development, so the $5,000 is a lost cost, like is a lost expense.
That's illegal.
Yeah, so that's something where the engineering cost, I think they're viewing it as, it's just part of the, getting the project where it's at.
It's a relevant question for budgeting purposes for this thing, but moving forward, we're gonna have to do a lot of engineering studies, a lot of shovel-ready stuff, and it's worthwhile to know whether it's typical that is reimbursable on the contract or whether we have to budget for it separately.
Sure.
No, understood, and I can get in contact with MEDC today and kind of ask around if that's normal and what their expectations are.
Any other questions? Hesitations? Support?
Okay, one quick question. You say, so if we were to get the grant for $1 million, we would, what's the timeline on this? Like, when would we need that $1 million for?
They would announce the awarding of the grant in March, I believe. It's springtime announcement.
Okay.
For awarding of the grant. Bill, do you have anything kind of to mention about the match regarding, it's the application's technically under the city. So it's something where I'm assuming there would be
Some kind of
cost sharing with needing a match in, covering the plaza and streetscape, because are almost, what we originally applied for the shared streets would be, I feel more so city, and then we'll cover street. I don't know. Again, like what are your thoughts on that, Bill?
we were looking at having river street money budgeted in the next fiscal year in our capital improvement plan, so it's not our streets budget, so I don't have, I don't have funds to cover the match with this year. But, so I was thinking that would be kind of an initial expense of the DDA would be, and then we're committing funds to the streetscape project. It's just when and how and exactly we need to determine all that.
Okay. What, other than bonding, what's the DDA's borrowing ability? Any idea?
Well, you can get a mortgage or anything like that, or any kind of construction loan.
Okay. So we do have some ability to.
But you're probably not gonna get better rates than you would in the city's bonds, right?
I'm just thinking the bond process. At some point, we may do it, but it takes time and. Yeah. Do you know when these funds have to be used?
I would have to look into the grant as to when exactly they would have to be used. I can imagine with some of the bigger infrastructure projects, they take time, so probably a year or so at least. But granted, they are requesting shovel ready, so it could be a tighter timeline than that.
So the ask today would be whether or not we want to support moving forward on this and spending the $5,000 for
The $60,000.
$60,000. Yeah, sorry, $60,000 for the application.
But also for designs that we're eventually going to need anyway.
Sorry, yeah.
So
right.
in many ways, we're just expediting that section to get this so we can apply for the grant, because we're going to need those designs anyway.
Yeah.
Better said.
Bill,
Thank you.
Thank you.
this is through MEDC,
It is, yeah.
and have they given you any kind of,
Talked to Dan, he said in the north region, he only knew of like 3 other ones that were looking to apply. apply, so. But as you said, there's not allocation just for the north, so it's gonna be competitive, but.
Especially with how they score it, because it's almost the public infrastructure. When they say public infrastructure, it's more about placemaking than anything else. So I could see a lot of cities doing things that are more relevant for creating a feeling of, you know, place and stay compared to a streetscape project. So that might also hinder our chances slightly. You know, obviously we don't know exactly what's out there, but
Considering at the same time.
Have we budgeted for this?
for an engineering.
For this right here?
Yeah, so then we budgeted 100,000 for engineering
I see that.
design. So that's where this would really fall into, especially if you're considering you need these
100,000, we
anyways.
spent 9 so far.
Yeah, so we're in a good spot with our engineering budget where we do still have funds.
Other than Bruce just said, we have a lot of engineering coming, so that's why he threw me off a little bit.
Yeah, and
Are we
this would cover,
anticipating any more?
Part of that.
this would cover 2 blocks of engineering essentially is what we're getting out of this, but. That was,
Are we anticipating any more in the next 6 months before we're done with this budget?
So post, after the grant is awarded, it would then be covering the engineering cost to get it to the rest of the 10%. And we can expect that to be less than 60,000 and still within our budget, to get into that last, 10% finished, and then that construction can be actually begun on that portion.
If this makes you feel any better, it looks like we added 83,000 to the fund balance
I
at
did
the
hear
end of
that,
20.
yeah.
the
That was a good
last
number.
time. So, just take that fund balance out and put it in there. DDA
I'm a
should just be
numbers guy,
sitting
you know
on a
that,
bunch
Tyler.
of fund balance anyway. We
obviously.
gotta run it to zero.
Obviously, if we're awarded this, then that would put priority on those 2 blocks to, that would be the focus at that point, and then we would look at, okay, what's the next, where do we want to focus next? But I think in our meetings, I mean, we all know that doing a streetscape is not a project we're gonna be able to just, finance all at once or write a check for, so we're trying to get creative, and Bill's been there, Andrew's been there, Spicer's been very helpful, trying to get creative, looking for dollars. This might be a long shot, but there's not a lot of risk if we need to, is the way I'm looking at it now. There's a small risk for drawings that we already need.
I don't think it's a long shot. I think there's people that think that Manistee is right at the cusp of something awesome, and I think people in Lansing will recognize that. The eternal cheerleader, I guess.
I appreciate
For
it.
Manistee.
When will they be considering?
Was that a motion?
When will they be reviewing applications?
So they're due at the end of January, and they're announcing in March. So throughout February and March, I believe it's towards the end of March that they're announcing it. So February, March.
That's a pretty,
That's
a pretty aggressive schedule.
Yeah.
This is important to somebody.
So if it's, would they be reviewing this in consideration of other significant grant projects in Manistee, that are right in this project area?
This is just for a public infrastructure.
Sure.
So it's not there's an allocation for this type of work. RAP has like another section, but I don't know of a competing
They have a
one.
placemaking component of their review, and they have another project that they're reviewing that they would be contributing a significant dollar amount to. Why would they not use some of that RAP funding to help supplement the other stuff, is my thought. So I do think there's probably a pretty good chance of getting approval on it.
So to move forward,
Sounds like we need a letter of support from Holt.
Talk to me after.
all right, so to move, we either need to let it die or we need a motion to support.
Yeah,
or
and if
discussion.
we do support this and didn't want to have this expense again, I would also ask for some type of motion for a letter of support. I think as Spicer said, having a letter of support from the DDA and as many boards as we can get would be extremely useful. So.
I guess I see this as when we met as a streetscape committee, and early on, we had kind of a long-term goal, well, relatively speaking, is getting the whole streetscape done. We talked about a short-term, kind of fixing those trip hazards, and I see this as kind of like that medium where maybe we can do this like outside of the bond with, you know, with some fund balance and working with the city and DDA. But I think, anyway, just perspective on this, I think this is kind of maybe a first step, kind of showing, and then we can kind of bond for the rest of it, is the idea. I'll make a motion to support the grant application through the 60,000 DDA funds and recommend council support as well.
Okay.
Second that.
Motion from Bill, second from Ben. Any discussion or questions? Okay, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, appreciate the discussion as well. Gap financing. Tyler, Andrew?
So the city did get a positive attorney opinion on the gap financing, which was really good to see. I was really excited about that. So the next steps for that is still just getting that public meeting, public hearing with city council, and then city council to approve the amendment that we suppose. I know it's a long process, but, you know, I was just happy that the city did take the time and expense to have their attorney review that. And again, I'm really happy that that came back as a positive opinion regarding that program. In there, they did say it was necessary for us to change our language in our TIF plan to explicitly state that. So again, that's hopefully going to be on city council's agenda. Unfortunately, we couldn't get it in January, but in February, so I'm working with Bill right now to hopefully get that on the agenda and have some board education for city council members to understand that a little better and what we're trying to do here.
Cool, thank you. Anything to add, Tyler? Okay. Old business, Shine's a contractor that we use to light the trees. Anything there?
Nothing new there. Again, they came out in December right before Sleigh Bell it was either late November or December to fix some lights, and we paid that invoice.
Any Riverwalk updates, Bill?
We're working through, the EDA's been, so we had all those contracts approved by council. It's all contingent on final EDA approval. We had a couple scope adjustments. Appreciate the foundation support. And so it's moving forward. I had an email exchange with our project officer yesterday, so it's moving forward. And then, so the second that they say everything's good, then we'll start doing the pre-construction meetings. We'll get the contract signed. But I anticipate, he said he hoped to have our approval letters by the end of this week.
Great, okay, thank you. Social district.
So social district, nothing as of right now. However, just be prepared for next month. There will be budget discussions, and Nicole's going to work up a like a little proposal as to just, hey, this is how much we've expended. I know we've been talking about giving businesses permission to get that sticker digitally. When we looked into like the copyright, who owns it, it was, you know, that the imagery was through the city's. Back in 2019, I think it was a Beck and Raider, like Rising Tide agreement they have. So, but it's all public access, more or less. There's no copyright issues. We're able to do it. Just get to give it to the businesses so they can print it directly on the cup. And so we'll draft something up as to a proposal for, you know, how much are we wanting to, how many stickers do we want to give businesses up front, and then being able to say, hey, after 1,000 stickers, you're required to do it on your own or something like that. So.
Okay. Any questions? Moving on to new business items. Board of Director, a couple expiring. One thing that would be helpful is to know what type of position these are. Bruce, are you an at-large or are you an interest, do you know?
I believe it's
Resident.
according to the website, it's resident.
Resident, that's right, I forgot we have resident, okay.
And Karen would be an interest.
Okay. I've just asked in the past that we put these on the agenda just so we're aware. And it's an opportunity for the board member to reapply. It's also an opportunity for other people to put in applications to be considered. So no action really needed there.
No, and then on the next one, similar to where it's kind of just keep an eye on that. And I think Nicole said there's going to be discussions next meeting in February for budget reasons, so there will be discussions.
For the economic development.
Yeah, but that's
contract.
something to just kind of keep in mind and
Yeah.
start thinking about.
All right, downtown banners.
And then, Sammy, do you kind of want to speak on the downtown banners? So Sammy's done excellent work with Brandon and kind of suggested to diversify our banners, because we have a lot more to offer downtown than just the social district.
So, when I got to my job in tourism about 2.5 years ago, I was a little more informed about what was going on in downtown Manistee. And the social district, having come out of COVID, it's great to promote that. And I'm sure there's this wonderful benefit for businesses and guests who come down here. But it's not the only thing we have downtown. And when you look at our light poles, you see social district everywhere. And it leaves out retail, it leaves out, stay here, some of the other dining options that are down here and all the things that there are to do in downtown and directionally. So we developed these just for fun as what a livery of signage could look like when we updated the Manistee tourism brand a 1.5 years ago. It really kind of came a little bit more to the forefront when I think Barry Lind was here and mentioned about the flowers that we purchase for all of the street poles that in the past, and historically, if you love the history of, why people make decisions, that banners were suggested because you didn't have to put flowers out there. And flowers die, they need maintenance, things like that. So this kind of was more expedited and brought back to the front of, is there a way that we can look at the street poles downtown, maybe change up some from social district, be more directional, tell people how to get to the Riverwalk, where are the bathrooms? We have a marina downtown people don't know how to get to because they don't know where to go. So we developed these. We're more than happy to help facilitate designs, the printing of them, if the DDA would consider some of its budget to help pay for them. I'm not sure the quote is accurate, though. In looking at some of these, there's a design over to the left. Red dots mean those are the permanent kind of stone structures of signage. The other black dots are just the regular poles that have the hardware to affix banners. I'd want to go back through these and figure out, okay, where is it appropriate for public restrooms? Because we're not going to put those all the way down at the end. We're going to try to map this out. So the quote might be a little premature, but I just wanted to throw it out for the DDA's consideration of doing something to better inform guests and locals and also dressing up downtown with things that are truly downtown and not just the social district signage.
So in the quote that was currently listed is for banners such as like the current social district banners.
Okay.
Where they slide onto the poles, I think. So that's where that number of
Okay, gotcha.
1,749,000 is coming in.
Yeah.
So it's, just under $2,000 for 15, for the quantity was 15. But that would be for banners that are similar in style to the existing social district ones. So, with these designs on them. So that's what you're kind of ballparking. So yeah, if we're looking for a couple different styles, yeah, it definitely would fluctuate. Then also I'm assuming probably more than 15.
Yeah, we made a lame attempt at what quantity we think there could be, but there's other options out there. I mean, we did win Best Beach, so there is an opportunity to direct people to that. We can be more specific about what we're pointing out, but something that just has a little bit more flair of indicative of downtown. The other thing that we did too was we looked at the branding for the city of Manistee through its rising tide to come up with a downtown branding. And in any kind of subsequent streetscape type of thing, there could be similar branding. So all of this would be consistent, so.
And then if I could just chime in as well, loving these designs. So I think we should also consider adding them to the Riverwalk and having that be accounted as well and not just the main River Street.
Yeah, and those aren't mapped down on our little, when you work with Brandon Jensen, you get a lot. So, mapping out what the Riverwalk signage, because there are poles down there as well, so.
I think it's great. I think it's time for an update. Is this something that you would be willing to just keep moving with?
Sure, yeah, I'm happy to run with that if I get help from
Yeah, and if you
staff.
want, Sammy, too, we could maybe like me, Nicole, yourself, Brandon, we could set up a meeting and
Yeah, that'd be great.
next week and really just spend an hour grinding it
Yeah.
out so that we can have something back from Urban Vinyl or
Yeah.
it's a more realistic quote, and get it done in February and then, yeah.
I don't want to speak for the board, so I'd like board consensus. I don't think we have to vote on this.
No, I don't think I just wanted to get it out there, and I don't want to waste time if the board has no appetite for something like this. But I think it's time to better inform people with a standard kind of look and feel.
Does that quote include the ones on the right there with the pictures on it? Like that's part of it? I
Yeah,
wasn't sure if those were extra or.
yeah. I
Okay.
mean, I'd want to promote the dining aspect, the
Yeah.
stay. I mean, we could put the Forest Festival,
Yeah,
because
those
we
are
know
really
it's
nice.
always in there. We know Sleigh Bell's always the first Saturday. Something to just punch up downtown a little bit.
I like Riverwalk too, though. I mean, that's great. Nicole, I like the idea down here on the
Yeah, well,
Riverwalk too.
including some of those dine, stay
Yeah.
on the Riverwalk,
Mhm.
kind of throwing in the social district here and there, but really utilizing those.
Yeah.
Sammy, those are absolutely beautiful. They are,
Thank you.
and I think they would really dress up downtown. So just in saying that we're talking about signage, I know we're far off from, or we're a long ways off from signage downtown through the streetscape. I wonder if a couple of those signs could even advocate for some of the parking that's off of River Street. So we have public
Sure,
restrooms there.
yeah.
We could do a couple parking up 2 blocks, or if we're addressing signage, we
Yeah,
can
that's
address
a great
that
idea.
short term here now.
Yeah.
That's a really good idea. And I know some of those renderings too for streetscape, Brandon's already put in tourism kiosks and some wayfinding. So that's kind of already being thought about. And obviously, once it starts really materializing, I bet there'll be more discussion around, do we actually want one right here? Or, where exactly is it going? But yeah, I'm pretty sure Brandon made sure to include several different wayfinding elements, specifically like the tourism kiosks that are out there, so.
So I'm going to take everybody speaking positively, nodding their heads that we're consensus. Okay.
Yeah, we'll come back with a plan, a layout, what
Yes.
we think, the anticipated costs, things like that.
I think this is one of the most important communication channels we have. I'm morally offended by empty brackets and banners that never change. It's a waste. I think this should be an ongoing effort. Yay. Go Sammy. Is that enthusiastic?
Sorry. Flowers are done then, in place of banners,
No.
or flowers with the banners?
I think there's some that have brackets that are appropriate for flowers and others that are appropriate for banners.
Because you all know if the flowers go away, we're gonna be like, what the heck happened? I think this
We'll
is
map those out
fantastic.
as
I
well.
love this.
What's a flower thingy and what's a signage thingy.
This looks great, I love this.
Thinking that's the technical
Well, thanks,
term.
Amy.
Look forward to an update.
Great. Special meeting to follow our February 12th regular meeting? What's that for?
For our required
Oh,
budgetary session that we have to have, statutory required.
So, can we go to C first? Because maybe we could do D at the same time. Or not.
Because I know you and Bruce were talking more of like a informal setting for the.
But we're still gonna have a quorum.
Yeah. So it's just a matter of, we'll just have to make sure that we promote it,
Yeah.
as normal, with public notice.
We don't have to, but let's talk about C first.
Okay.
So Bruce brought up to me the last couple months, doing sort of a organizational meeting and not a required one. And I coined it strategic planning, because we used to do this, we've done this several times in the DDA before, and so that's kind of where, but Bruce, jump in if you want to, but go ahead. What are your thoughts on?
So, I mean, I've watched since, you know, from like 2014, YouTube videos on the DDA and the progress in, you know, changing, pivoting away from, you know, really minutia to using the power of this tool that we've got has been enormous. So we're sitting here with resources on this tool, ready to take a big swing. Streetscape is one. I think we're capable of doing a lot of other stuff, but I'm ignorant in a lot of areas. I don't know what assets we hold. You know, all the properties that we have, past agreements. I don't know what the huge needs are, you know, and I want to hear from other people about that. This is about, you know, sort of establishing a course, a direction that moves along the TIF plan, and maybe there are modifications that we should make. I mean, I think we should look at the TIF plan as a living document. You know, if we need to modify it every year to reflect, you know, change and our direction, we should do that. The DDA was created, I think, if I humor me for just a second, the DDA was created to address a need. 60s, 70s, every downtown area was experiencing disinvestment. City budgets could not keep up with maintaining their downtowns. Different places, different states addressed it in different ways, but the DDA is the mechanism that Michigan created to spur investment and attention to downtown areas, which are our shared space. It's shared, you know, all the residents of Manistee and all the residents of Manistee County and visitors, we share this space, and that has a value. It has an economic value, but it also has a social value. And so we get some big powers. We can participate with, you know, private entities in business. Governments can't do that. Tax increment financing is a huge tool. We can take big swings at stuff. So this is about, you know, figuring out where we all are and looking for where to take the big swing.
Thank you. So if we, I would like to do this, and we've done it before. I kind of have a vision for what it would look like, but I'd like to hire, if we want to do this, I'd like to hire a facilitator to, and we've engaged with some in the past. One in particular is Right Side Design Studio, Brandon and Shannon, and it doesn't have to be them, but we would need some approved money to do that. And really the deliverable is, you know, Brandon kind of gave me a range, and he wasn't able, it was kind of last minute, he wasn't able to give me anything in writing, but he said, you know, 2,500 to 5,000. I don't think we need 5,000, but over the 2,500 is what we get in more of a deliverable on the back end in terms of a report from it. Here's some goals, here's some, you know, I can't speak for Brandon, but it's more, you know, 2,500 is sort of for the presentation, and here's the report, and more than that would be, and don't quote these numbers, but I guess I would like to know if there's support in moving forward with this. I think it'd be important to try to push for some time in February. Personally, I'd rather see this as a sort of a afternoon thing where maybe we could end up, you know, doing some appetizers and a drink afterwards or something to finish it up that way. But I'm open to ideas, but I think it's a good idea. And I really like the idea of revisiting the TIF plan because we don't do that.
enough. So any thoughts on this concept?
I think it's a great idea for someone probably the newest to this board. I think it's a fantastic idea.
I do too. I think it would help move us along in a direction that we're all would then have options and agreeable on, and I like the term taking the big swing, you know, if we're gonna do it, to just be, have that presented to us in a very clear manner.
It would be very engaging. I mean, it's not like somebody's talking to us. It's participation. We've talked about inviting council members, foundation, you know, other partners. It's not just, you know, at different times or at the end or whatever, but it wouldn't just be this board. I was trying to, when is our next meeting?
It's,
Oh, yeah, it is the 12.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
So, if, with permission from the board, I'll see if we can put out a survey for some dates, get a proposal or two, and see if we can get something for maybe early February if possible. It'd be great to have full participation, but at least if we got 90%, that'd be good.
Kyle, but did they indicate, like, what's the difference between the 2,500 version and the
It was a
5,000?
conversation. No, it was just it was a conversation, like a quick conversation. So I don't quote me on any of this stuff.
But if you're trying to get a facilitator in early and we have not approved this expense, how are we doing that?
I don't know.
do you want to just do it the week after the regular scheduled DDA meeting in February? Because then we could have something written up and approved by the board. And then that following week, go right into the facilitated session.
Sure. Okay.
I'm definitely in support of that.
Okay. Cool. All right. I'll work on it. Okay. Thank you.
And then I can send out an email for a survey, like dates, you know, what would work in that third week of February
Yeah.
for everybody.
Perfect.
One more question. So just because I have never met anybody from Right Side Design, I haven't been on the board long enough to, they've never come and spoke when I've been here. I'm taking it that they already have like working knowledge of what we do and they've worked with this board.
Brandon sat on the board too, right, at one point?
Yeah,
So-
Brandon.
Yeah, he has like
He was on the
experience.
DDA board, chamber board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's very
Okay, so we don't need any action on the special meeting though, do we, for 12?
I don't believe so. I think that was just a, hey,
Information.
this is coming down the pipe, so.
Okay. Cool. Public comment?
Yeah, I just want to thank everybody. Just to watch you work has been really inspiring today. You took brave steps towards leveraging that possibility for the wrap. So fantastic to watch you all at work. So I read grants for a living, as you may know, on a much smaller scale, but takes engineering and the story. And I saw that at work today. So best wishes to you all.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Sarah.
it. All right. Anyone else? Board member comments? Ben?
None today.
All right, Tyler? I just have one. Would you be willing to work on a letter of support for the RAP grant?
Yeah, so I just wrote that down, actually.
Cool.
It's my attention.
And maybe solicit for a few others, maybe from the foundation or something?
The more the better.
Yeah.
The more the better as far as.
Yeah, as of right now, I like Chamber, EDC.
Okay.
We have a couple more that I'll be able to get letters of support for most likely.
Cool, thanks. Lindsay, anything?
No, I'm good.
All right. Bruce?
You guys did a great job on the sleigh bell.
Yeah.
Well done.
Amy?
Two things, the buyer backed out for the 6th Ave property, so we're back in the market. That's the fourth buyer that's backed away, but maybe that site readiness grant, maybe we look at that with that property. And then some graffiti down on the Riverwalk. I apologize, I was emailing Brandon and Jeff, but it's on private property. They said they did a work order to get rid of it, but I'm fine with giving them a deadline, or then we do it and they can take us to court. But in the meantime, too, they're putting up, we're gonna put up some plywood over it, but it's just frustrating because there was a lot of damage done over the holiday. And bathroom downtown and to, with racist language.
Deanna?
No, not really, just Downtown Business Connect is next Tuesday, and there will be a sleigh bell wrap up from Julia at that.
Excellent. If nothing else, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Ben. Deanna, thank you.